Welcome, 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 my friends, wherever in the world you are. Tonight, we are talking about healthcare insurance in Spain. What could possibly be difficult about that? You get some private cover, you move here, job done. Well, for a lot of people, it's not that simple. I'm sure a lot of you know that already, because one of the biggest shocks for people moving to Spain, or even people who've been here for a few years, is discovering that not everyone is treated equally when it comes to private healthcare insurance, or indeed public healthcare insurance. Some people get covered easily, some people get exclusions, some people get higher premiums, and some people are told, sorry, we can't cover you at all. And possibly the biggest hurdle is the dreaded pre-existing conditions. We'll talk a lot about them tonight, and we'll dive in and we'll look at what the real barriers are, who has the easiest time, who struggles the most, and most importantly, what the solutions are. That's what you want to know, isn't it? And to help us do that, I'll be joined once again by our regular healthcare insurance expert, broker Ciaran O'Toole from Innoinsure, who spends his working life dealing with exactly these situations, from the easy cases to the complicated ones and the downright impossible ones. We'll help you all the way through so you can do the Spain thing too. You are very welcome to YouTooSpain. Here comes the theme tune. Hold on to your hats now. Whoosh! That is powerfully groovy. And speaking of groovy, let's welcome Ciaran from Innoinsure. Hola, Ciaran.
Hola, Scat. ¿Cómo estás? How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Muy bien.
Good.
And you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Yeah, thanks very much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be back as always, speaking all things health insurance. So thanks everyone for joining as well, and I look forward to getting stuck into it.
Absolutely, you're very welcome. And Ciaran is all the way up there in Madrid, so we were just comparing the weather as usual. That's the first thing I always talk to everybody about. We're on the coast, we've got weather warnings, and he's sitting there in Scorchio 10 degrees up there in Madrid. So
Yeah,
there you go. What can you do about it? Still, we were saying it's better than it was in Ireland.
absolutely.
Excellent. So happy 2026. It's actually been 9, possibly 10 months since we saw you last. I think it was April, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, doesn't time fly?
absolutely.
Yeah, let's say hello to everybody on the live chat. If anyone's joined us so far, yes, we've got a couple of people. Donald McKenzie, hello there, Donald. And it says, hi, Scats, hope you're well. Just battening down the hatches, getting ready for tomorrow's forecasted deluge. So yes, you're down there on the south coast, not far away from me, I think. And Paul Cook is here as well. Good evening, Scats, Ciaran, and viewers. And people are joining us slowly. We've got at least 12 there. So if you can hear us already, some people get an advert thrown at them first of all as soon as they join. But there you go. As soon as you can, give us a wave, say hello on the live chat, and tell us where you are. Tell us how you are. Tell us what the weather's like. Tell us anything you want, really. And just a quick mention, actually, before we start, my radio show. I do a show, as some of you know, called Scatsman Meets the Musos, and I interview different people every week. And this week I've got a DJ, producer and musician, Leo Hopfinger, who'll be choosing his top 10 tracks and answering questions from me designed to find out what makes him tick. And that's on Friday, so that's Friday the 30th of January on nerkagoldradio.com. I'll put a link in the video description below. It's on every week, and there's a repeat on Wednesdays between 1 and 3 in the afternoon. This is all Spanish time, by the way, Central European time, if you're watching from anywhere else in the world. And we have Pilot Paul. Hello there. Afternoon from a dull and grey Basingstoke. The centre of the universe. And hello from Bolivia, from Patrick O'Connell. There's a fellow Irishman there. Lovely. He's living in the centre of Ireland, known as Bolivia. And no, that's obviously not true. But yes, so is it early in the morning or late at night? I can't work out what. So you're in, yeah, it's kind of earlier in the day for you, isn't it? I can't remember. You told me how many hours it was behind, 5 or 6. You'll probably tell me again. Also, I've got a new channel for relaxation videos, which is called Still Space Journeys. There's a growing number of videos on there. I do 3 every week, and they're all to do with either focus, meditation, or sleep. So different lengths, and you can do different things with them. It's really special, and I'd like anybody that watches this show to subscribe and tell me what you think of them, whether they suit you or not, whether you like them all individually or collectively, whether you do yoga, whatever you do, whether you need the sleep. It's the time of year when everybody needs some more sleep. So there we go. That's the stuff. Anyway, everything I've mentioned, there are links to down below, including Ciaran's website, the Innoinsure website. There's a link to that too. Okay, that's the intros. Let's get on with it, shall we? Let's dive into the main topic. What can get in the way? This is the first question. What can get in the way of our watchers getting private healthcare insurance, Ciaran?
Yeah, great question to start us off, Scott. So unfortunately, there can be a few different ways that can get in the way of getting health insurance, whether it be quotes or actual coverage. And I suppose one of the main ones, which you've briefly mentioned there, are pre-existing conditions. So if a client is looking to move to Spain, and of course they may need Spanish private health insurance, one of the main kind of roadblocks is pre-existing conditions. So clients have a pre-existing condition such as diabetes, maybe hypertension. They could have previously had a form of cancer, any pre-existing conditions like this, whether it's very serious or not so serious, because I know there can be smaller pre-existing conditions. Nevertheless, it still may make it more difficult. A lot of Spanish health insurance companies may reject the application. They'll be unable to provide a quote, or else they may provide coverage but with an exclusion. So they'll give you health insurance coverage, but they'll exclude your diabetes or your high blood pressure. So what a lot of people want to do when they're moving to Spain, they're looking for private health insurance options. They want, for several reasons, but they may want coverage for the pre-existing condition, and that may be possible as well, which is important to note, because it is rare, but it is possible. So pre-existing conditions is one of the main roadblocks. How we can assist, thankfully, depending on each case, is we may be able to provide quotes and coverage covering the pre-existing conditions, which gives a lot of people peace of mind, both for their visa or residency application, but also just for their personal health, that if they need to see a doctor related to the pre-existing condition, or if they need a scan or a test, anything related, that can be covered. So that's really important to note. So pre-existing conditions, probably number one, but there are ways around it. Thankfully, there are many different health insurance companies in Spain, different offices, including ours, where we can cover pre-existing conditions. So it's a good place to start. Secondly, what can be quite difficult in getting coverage is age. Unfortunately, your age may work against you. So typically, older clients may find it more difficult to get a health insurance quote here in Spain, because there's some health insurance companies that offer policies, for example, only up till 65 years of age, or 70 years of age, or 75. So the older you are, unfortunately, the more difficult it may be, especially if there's an older client that may also have a pre-existing condition. It can be difficult, but we offer policies and visa compliant policies as of now up to the age of 99. So it gives people the option, whether they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s. We may have an option for you, but just highlighting the fact that if you have pre-existing conditions, or if you're older, you may struggle to find quotes, but to let out some hope that there is other options out there, especially through Innoinsure, where we can help you, and depending on your age, your pre-existing conditions, will be able to offer you a health insurance policy, and also a visa compliant health insurance policy. So I suppose pre-existing conditions and age are the, I suppose, two biggest roadblocks. And then The third biggest, I suppose, roadblock that I'd see, hearing from the many clients that I speak to every day, it's not as common, but your area in Spain may have an effect on you getting a health insurance quote or health insurance coverage. So there's some health insurance companies in Spain that will only offer coverage in a certain area. So, for example, in Barcelona, Madrid, or in the south of Spain, but in the north of Spain, in the west of Spain, they might not have any coverage. So where you're moving to in Spain may have an effect on your health insurance policy. Well, as I said, we always try to help people where possible and provide health insurance so they can clients can fulfill their dream of moving to Spain. And air policies offer national coverage in Spain. So we don't just cover the bigger cities. We cover, of course, the beautiful north of Spain, the Canary and the Balearic Islands as well. So the three big roadblocks: pre-existing conditions, age, and also where you're living in Spain. But we have policies that can hopefully provide you cover and assist you if you're needing that health insurance policy for a visa or residency permit.
Mm-hmm. So that all of yours are okay for visa applications.
Yeah.
But what happens if there's something that you can't cover? Is there a way of getting it through the visa application without covering something, without covering a pre-existing condition?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So with air policies, it's either you're accepted or you're rejected. In very unlikely cases, the insurance company will reject your application. In most cases, we're able to provide that coverage. But with air policies, they just cover pre-existing conditions. So once you're accepted, they'll set a premium covering the pre-existing conditions. And of course, part of a visa compliant policy. But with air policies, we have no way of excluding certain treatments or excluding certain treatments. It's just the one policy. And once you're accepted, the health insurance company will set the price, and that will cover your condition. So there's no exclusions, or there's no excluding part of the coverage. It's just the one policy with the one coverage.
Oh, that is great. Brilliant. Everybody, by the way, don't forget there is, if I can see it with my finger there, a buyscatsofcoffee.com in the corner. It's a QR code as well. It's not a Buy Scats of Coffee website. It's buymeacoffee.com. That's in the corner, and there's a super link in the video description below, especially for people who are already watching on their phone and can't hold the phone camera over their own phone, so you can't actually do the QR code thing. Just look for the super link. It's the very top link underneath the video description, and you can find lots of things in there, but there's the buymeacoffee.com link to donate. If you learnt something of value to you today, or if you've been entertained, then use the link to access the site, where you can decide how much you want to donate, how many cups of coffee, 1 or 3 or 5 or 1,479, whatever you think today's show is worth to you. Okay, let's continue, and we'll continue with a question from Pilot Paul 42. I had my prostate removed in 2017 due to cancer and have been cancer-free ever since. Does this still need to be declared, as I seem to be getting differing advice? Yes, I remember asking you last time on the show, there's if you've been free for cancer for more than 5 years, this was a new rule the government started putting out, then you don't need to tell them. Is that true?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Paul. And of course, I'm here representing the health insurance companies that we work with through Innoinsure, and we do work with the 3 of the biggest health insurance companies in Spain. But it really does depend on the health insurance policy and their terms and conditions, and how they offer their policies with us, because we cover and include pre-existing conditions depending on each case. All relevant conditions need to be told. That doesn't mean that they're going to have an effect, whether it'll change the coverage or the price. But what we always recommend is to avoid any uncertainties in the future, or for the insurance company to reject any authorizations for further treatment if something were to happen relating to the cancer back in 2017. 17. So our advice is to provide as much relevant details as possible, such as any previous pre-existing conditions or any previous cancer in the past. So there's full transparency, and that means if anything were to arise in the future, that you're covered because you have provided all relevant details. So sometimes I hear different advice and hearing different information from different sources, but with us, what we always tell our clients is to provide as much details as possible. We'll confirm the quote and coverage based on these details, and it just means you're in the clear then, and then there's no hidden issues with the policy.
Yes, good, very good answer. And I can see why people are getting differing advice, because some people are, some companies are obviously saying it's all right, just don't mention it, but you're telling people why you should mention it and why it's a good idea in the future, because you never know, laws might change as well. And yeah, okay, brilliant. I hope that answers your question, Paul. And okay, let's continue then. Are there any other barriers to private healthcare? I think you've mentioned the big ones. Are there any more?
Yeah, I suppose the main barriers that we've seen, which I kind of come across every day, as I've mentioned, pre-existing conditions, age, and it's not so relevant, but it's still important where you're living, because as I said, there's certain health insurance companies in Spain that might not cover certain areas. So you want to ensure where you're living, whether it's the autonomous community you're in or the town you're in, has coverage with the company that you've gotten a quote for. So I suppose they're the three biggest barriers that I can think of and that I come across on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm. And is there anything that will absolutely get you a refusal?
Yeah, that's a great question. As I've said, it's quite rare. The companies we work with reject applications. From what I've seen, where it's more common is if you're currently ongoing treatment. So, for example, you're based in Manchester and you're looking to move to Spain to retire here on a Spanish non-lucrative visa. If you're ongoing treatment, so for example, you've in the last 6 months been diagnosed with cancer, but your GP or your doctor in Manchester is still analysing the cancer and the risks, and you're awaiting treatment, that's typically when a Spanish health insurance company will just straight away reject you, because you yourself or your doctor back in the UK or where you're from doesn't currently know the status. So it's a lot of risk for a Spanish health insurance company to take you on. So that's the cases where I see straight up rejections. But for any, I suppose, managed pre-existing conditions, whether it was diagnosed a couple of years ago or more recently, but if the outcome's already been determined, then typically there aren't any issues. It's just when the treatment is ongoing and nobody really knows the outcome as of now.
Mm-hmm. Great. And how big a problem is age? You've mentioned that you can work on coverage up to 99. What happens to 100-year-olds was going to be my next question. I forgot to ask. But yeah, does it get more expensive and more difficult the older you get?
Yeah, that's a great question again. So age is more difficult because the health insurance companies deem people if they're older and they have any pre-existing conditions, that they're more risk. So in that case, the prices do increase with age, although it just does depend on the health insurance company and the individual as well, because there may be younger clients with pre-existing conditions that may have a higher premium than older clients, but have zero pre-existing conditions. So it is a little bit of a mix of age and also pre-existing conditions. But I suppose the simple answer is typically the older you are, the more expensive your health insurance premium is. So the prices do increase typically with age. But age isn't I suppose, be an end all, because there are policies and visa compliant policies we offer up to the age of 99. So that's important to know as well. So just because you're older, don't think that there's not an option for you.
Mm-hmm. No, it's changing rapidly. Health is changing rapidly all the time. So hopefully insurance companies will go along with that. Well, it's not going to be long before there's going to be androids asking you for health policy, and that'll be a whole completely different ball game by then. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my sci-fi brain going on. I'm reading sci-fi at the moment. So there you go. We'll talk about healthcare a bit more in a minute, but I just wanted to pass on greetings from one of my regular guests who's part of our network of experts, that YouTooSpain, and Chris from Upsticks that we have on regularly. He's part of that network, and there's been a special offer extended to watchers of this show, and here's a reminder of that from Charisse. Lovely. So that's a free first consultation from CPG, from Teresa's company, and her details are in the video description and in the comments, so you can contact her anytime. And she's going to be back on the show live on, I believe it's the 9th or something like that. Anyway, I'll announce it in advance and you'll see. So make sure you subscribe so you can find out when she's on and you can ask questions directly. Okay. Larry has got a question here, so let's do this one first. He says, I had an appointment arranged by health service at a private hospital. They referred me back to health service. So what, back to your health centre, do you mean there? After a month I've not been contacted. How can I ensure I'm in the system, not forgotten? So I guess you just ask at the health service. I always just go back to my doctor and they check on the computer to make sure it's live. Sometimes it gets forgotten, but a month isn't very long. Waiting lists are starting to expand, unfortunately. I'm on one at the moment and they're saying it could be a year. Well, that's what they said a month ago anyway. So yeah, what do you say about that, Ciaran?
Yeah, I'm just trying to decipher if it's you went to a private hospital and they told you to go back to your local centre de salud, like your health centre. And in that case, kind of, I agree with SCATs, which I always recommend, whether it's only with the public healthcare or only with the private healthcare. Whoever you're waiting for details on, or whoever had sent you, typically there's several ways to contact them. So by visiting the health centre in person, by giving them a call, or sending them an email. So if you're close by, then I'd recommend just visiting in person, just to make sure, as you've said here, that you're not forgotten. Or you can give them a call or drop them an email just to ensure you're not forgotten. But as Scott's mentioned, waiting times can vary, especially in the public healthcare system. So it may be normal. If not, you can double check.
This might help. He said, thanks. It's a cancer operation that I've waited over a year for with Costa del Sol. Is that a private company? Do you know that?
Yeah, I guess this is public just because of the I could be wrong, but I'd guess this is the public healthcare, just judging by the wait times. Wait times can, as Kat said, can be very normal for certain treatments, over a year, sometimes pushing towards 2 years, depending. But as I said, there's no harm in just visiting the hospital or the medical centre and just ensuring that everything's up to date on the system and they're not missing any information or nothing's being lost in documents or translation.
I mean, it does depend on what kind of cancer and how what they call it, the level. of cancer. Mine was urgent, and the operation happened pretty fast. But I'm just waiting for a stoma reversal now, and that's not urgent. So I'm on a much longer waiting list. So yeah, I already waited for a year. So yeah, but it's not unusual for them to be quite long, even though the health service over here is pretty good. But waiting lists are lengthening at the moment. A lot of people are reporting. There we go. So yes, don't be afraid to ask them. There's a system for that, and if you bug your doctor about it, then that's fine. As long as you're polite and nice about it. But if you were Spanish, you wouldn't even necessarily be polite about it. You'd go in and speak loudly to your doctor, because they're not afraid at all to be forthright, and not afraid to let people know exactly what's wrong with them, even in public. So, which is kind of refreshing in a way. There we go. Oh, Diane has a question. Looking to move to Lanzarote. Just had a quote from a broker for DKV Seguros. Are they a good company to have insurance with? That's a good. It depends. Is that one of the companies you work with?
Yeah, we work with DKV. So DKV is one of there's several massive health insurance companies in Spain, and DKV are a renowned company in Spain, which we work with as well. So I can vouch for DKV, and they have a very strong national medical network. So they, as you mentioned there, you're moving to Lanzarote, so they're going to have some coverage there as well. So yeah, it just depends as well, because it's one massive company and there's many different brokers or offices. So it may depend on that, but DKV is a renowned Spanish
Yeah, there you go.
Operating in Spain.
Great. Let's see. What did I for the next question? Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, make sure you smash the like button, everybody, if you haven't done already, and subscribe. I'll keep mentioning that, and also do the buy scats of coffee thing. Right. What are the other ways of getting healthcare cover, and who can access those? So, I mean, we're talking public as one of them, and are there any barriers to those?
Yeah, this is a very common question. I get asked this multiple times a day. A lot of these answers will depend to whoever's asking them, because there may it just really depends on each person's situation. So if you're moving to Spain, and you are typically you're studying in Spain, or you're going to retire here and you're not of pension age, or you don't have an S1 form, then 9 times out of 10 you'll need private health insurance. There are certain cases, if you have an S1, if you're of retirement age, or other factors, where you'll be able to access the public healthcare system. And as you've mentioned earlier in the video, YouTube, I suppose public healthcare is renowned in Spain, and you've had your own personal experiences, and me too. Public healthcare, in my eyes, is great here. If applicable, if you're working, you're contributing to the social security, then in that case you'll have access to the public healthcare system. I think sometimes people are unaware, as we've mentioned earlier in the call, there are some issues in comparison to private health insurance, such as with public healthcare. Wait times can be extremely long. Sometimes you may have to wait 9, 10, 11 months to visit a specialist. You may visit your GP tomorrow or Wednesday, and they'll refer you to, let's say, a dermatologist or a gynecologist, but you may be waiting 9, 10 months depending where you're based. So I suppose that's a common issue with the public healthcare system. Another common issue that I've come across is with the public healthcare. You only really have one assigned GP. So in your local town or village, you'll have a health centre. You'll register with one doctor, and that will be your doctor. So if they don't speak any English, then you can't, choose another GP down the road. You're just assigned to that one GP, so your options are limited. and the wait times can be really high depending on each specialty and where you're based. So that there are a couple of important notes on the public healthcare system. So it may be applicable to you depending on your situation. But if you don't have an S1 and you're not working, paying your social security in Spain, you'll have to go for the private insurance in most cases. But as I said, it does vary depending on each case.
If it can help, like in the area that I live in, half of the population is non-Spanish, and a lot of that population, even if they're not from the UK, English is probably their second language and Spanish is their third language. So there's a lot of English spoken in this area, and I think they make sure at the health centre that there's somebody that speaks English in there. There's also people from the town who help as well and come in and translate for you. And they actually have a translator who sits at the front desk for 2 or 3 hours in the morning, so you can you make sure you get a morning appointment. You can ask them to come in with you. So, but our doctor fortunately speaks relatively good English. She's quite fluent, but also it really helps to type everything into Google, type all of the questions you want to ask, and give and do a Google Translate on it, take a printed sheet in and give it to the doctor. And whenever I do that with my doctor, she goes, great. Well, and she reads it all through and says, thanks, that's very helpful. I know exactly what to say now, rather than trying to translate every little bit as you go along. And, you might get to your fourth question and they go, I wish I'd known that when you asked me the first question. Then I could have given you a much simpler answer. So, yeah, there are ways around that, I think. And there are locums that come in as well at health centres. When you're in a small village, large village, small town, like I'm in, you get our doctor goes out as a paramedic with the ambulance. So sometimes there's a locum who comes in, or one of the paramedics comes in and is the doctor for a set of appointments. There we go. So yeah. So a lot depends on where you are, I would say.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's move on to some sort of general questions about healthcare insurance. Keep asking the questions, by the way, on the live chat and giving us a wave and saying hello, and telling us where you are. Let's see. We've only done half an hour so far, but let's get quick answers to each of these, and if anyone wants to go into more depth about their own situation, then they can contact Ciaran through the link in the video description, because also not everyone wants their personal health situation discussed live on the air. Unless you're Spanish, in which case you just tell everybody everything. It's great in the chemist, isn't it? In the pharmacia, when you go in and the English people go in and they lean over and whisper trying to speak Spanish about their boils or something like that, and the Spanish people come in and there's just absolutely no barriers to they talk about their hemorrhoids and stuff. Yeah, it's quite funny. So, an easy question to start with, in case we haven't mentioned it already, and I don't think we have. Who exactly needs healthcare cover in Spain?
Yeah, that's a great question again. So typically anybody moving to Spain on a Spanish visa, so it might be a non-lucrative visa, student visa, digital nomad visa, entrepreneur visa. In that case, in most cases, as I said, it's just people's personal situations may differ, but in the most part, if you're moving to Spain on these visas, you'll need Spanish private health insurance that meets the visa requirements. So of course the Spanish government sets the several visa requirements, and for the health insurance is that it's full coverage, so like mimics the public healthcare. There's no co-payments, no deductibles. So anybody, as I said, if you're moving here to retire, just to spend a couple of years, if you're moving over here to work, you're a digital nomad, or you're here to study, you'll need Spanish private health insurance, and that's one of the visa requirements, and has strict requirements, so that's important to note as well. As I hopefully have mentioned earlier, our visa health insurance policies, they meet 100% of the visa requirements as well. So you don't want to get pay for health insurance, go through the whole process, sell your home back in the UK, wherever it may be in the world, and then your visa is rejected because the health insurance has co-payments or doesn't meet the visa requirements. So really important to ensure, if you do need private health insurance for your Spanish visa, that you have a policy that meets the visa requirements 100%.
Great. And the wider answer to the question is everybody needs either private or public healthcare insurance, or both.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do need to be covered. There is no, and that's a good thing for Spain, really. Everybody is covered. Everybody can get some healthcare. Nobody's denied. So that's a very good thing. Let's see. I was going to ask. There's something called the Convenio Especial, which I wasn't. Oh, somebody's asked a question about it. That's handy. I was just going to talk about that. I have an Irish passport, says Pilot Paul. Well done. It's the best one in the world. And my wife has a UK passport. Boo. So after 1 year of private healthcare, can we get access to the Convenio Especial, as that would really help to keep costs down? Well, I'll just have a quick answer to this, and then you can follow on from me, Ciaran. It takes a little while to get the Convenio Especial, and someone told me that it took them like 7 or 8 months to get there. I'm not sure it takes you that long. But and in order to get it, you have to have signed up for your second year's worth of private health insurance already before you can apply for it. So when it says that you can, after 1 year, you can get Convenio Especial, it's not strictly true. It's really after the second year, by the time you've applied for it and got a positive result from that, before you can set it off. And you have to time it right, because of the time it takes, and you've got to make sure that, because you'll end up paying for two. So, because if you apply for it as soon as you've done your year two visa renewal, and then you apply for that, and they say yes within 3 months, then you can't cancel your private healthcare insurance and get any of your money back. So you end up being covered on both for the rest of the year. So it means you have to time whatever you're doing. So anything to add to that, Ciaran? Have I got all that right?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. I just wanted to add, I was just going to say, I suppose the most important thing with this is the timing, because if each person's I suppose scenario is different, but if you're here on a let's say non-nucleative visa, your entire time you need to be covered, whether it's with public or private healthcare. So if you just, let's say, after 1 year have private health insurance, and you just have it for 1 year, and then you have no coverage, and you have some gaps in your healthcare, and let's say it takes 5 months to get on the Convenio Especial, the police or the Foreign Office, they might reject people's residency or visa applications because they had a 5 month gap. Exactly. So
even
really
1 day you can be thrown out of the country and not get your renewal, and especially when it gets to your end of the 5 year, and you say, right, can I be permanent now? And although actually, Chris was saying, I'm not sure that they check your healthcare. They must check your healthcare after 5 years to get you. But yeah, I'm going to ask him that next week. But yes, so yeah, no gaps in coverage is very, very important. I know people who have had just a few days gaps, and Chris has actually helped somebody who had that, but they managed to go back to the insurance company, and they somehow redid the paperwork, which started off the insurance from an earlier date, which I'm not sure is strictly kosher, but they managed to get around the situation by doing that. Yeah. I'm not sure you'd do that, would you, Ciaran?
No, just to reiterate, yeah, timing's really important. So you just, throughout your visa, of course, health insurance, one of its main purposes, of course, is for your health, but it is also part of a legal residency application. So it's really important to ensure that you have adequate health insurance coverage, but also that it's matching up with your visa. So as you said, to ensure there's no gaps and no paperwork issue. So it may be possible, but that's just my advice, because I've also come across issues like this before and heard the horror stories. So just always ensure that you're always covered and there's no gaps. That's the most important thing.
Brilliant. Good. So let's just quickly answer the question that a lot of people ask. What's the difference between the healthcare insurance and the EHIC or GHIC as well? Yes, that part first, and then I'll answer the second part of the question.
Yeah, so private health insurance, like the policies we have, are extremely premium policies, because they're quite expensive for the health insurance company to have, because there's no waiting periods, no co-payments, full coverage, unlimited financial coverage with very wide medical network. So if you live in, let's say, in Madrid, where I'm currently based, in a 5 kilometer radius, you might have 7 different GPs that you can visit. Although with your GHIC or your EHIC card, it's basically just covering you in emergencies. Basically what that's for is if you're coming to let's say to Gran Canaria for a holiday, or a couple of months, let's say 2 months, and you might have that as a backup. If there was any emergency and you were rushed to the hospital, you would be covered. But for any longer term, over 3 months, that's when you'd need some private health insurance or actual travel insurance. But the EHIC and GHIC just cover you in emergencies, when typically they're saved for when you're traveling abroad to Spain, and are completely different to actual private health insurance policies that give you coverage for GP specialists, surgeries, hospitalization, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Good. Do you still need, when you first arrive in Spain on a visa, for example, do you still need travel insurance before you? Mind you, your coverage starts straight away, doesn't it? But if you're on a visa and you've not actually got your TIE card or something like that, do you need travel insurance for a couple of months or while you get sorted out?
No, you don't. So basically, if you're coming here on Spain, you'll need visa compliant health insurance. You don't then need travel insurance for your travels or while you get the visa. What is the most important thing is that you have your visa compliant health insurance policy from the moment you land in Spain. So for example, if you're landing in Spain on the 26th of February, that you'll have your health insurance, let's say, start on the 1st of February 2026. So there's no need for extra travel insurance unless you wanted travel insurance for your plane journey or for your train to and from cities in Spain. But you just need your private health insurance policy that must start when you arrive in Spain. So you're not in Spain for any days or weeks without your visa compliant health insurance.
And you can choose that start date on your coverage.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
When suits you.
And question: how long should your insurance cover? Is it always like the 12 months, or can you make it slightly longer if you don't know when it's going to start, for example?
Yeah, so typically the visa and the residency requirements. So for example, if you're an Irish citizen and you don't need it for a visa, but you'll still need to go to the police station to get your green residency card. In that case, and for visa applications, it's 12 months. Sometimes people might be coming here for, let's say, 15 months or 16 months. You can purchase for 15 months. Or if you're studying here in Spain, let's say for 9 months, you can purchase a policy for the 9 months. You basically just need coverage for your entire time in Spain for at least 1 year, except for in the cases of your studying in Spain. In that case, it can be 6-9 months, depending on your studies.
Great. And you can't change the period of insurance or cancel it or extend it or anything like that?
Yeah, so kind of depends on the policy or the health insurance company you have. Although with their policies, you can change your start date once your policy hasn't started yet. So in that case, you can let us know, because typically for visa applications or residency applications, it may be delayed. There may be, which you'll soon to find out, there are a lot of bureaucracy issues in Spain. But we allow that flexibility, so you're not paying for Spanish healthcare while you're still in the US, the UK, Canada, or your home country. So you can change the start date once it hasn't started yet. If you need to extend it, because sometimes the Foreign Office, they may request that you have an extra 4 months coverage. In that case, we can do that. And you can cancel your insurance if your visa residency application is rejected for any reason. Just send us the letter of rejection that the government, Spanish government or the police will give you, and then you'll be able to get a refund as well. So we allow that flexibility depending on each case.
Brilliant. Okay, then let's have a quick explanation of 3 important things that you'll notice from policies. One is deductibles, the other is co-payments, and the other one is waiting periods. Talk us through that.
Yeah, if you're researching health insurance or looking to buy or looking to get quotes, these are, I suppose, the 3 most maybe common words you'll hear. Deductibles and co-payments are very similar. Typically in Spain, there isn't any deductibles, but co-payments and waiting periods are quite common. So deductibles and co-payments are additional payments that you'll pay as well as your health insurance policy. So if you pay, let's say, €50 a month for a health insurance policy, you may go to a consultation and your health insurance company will cover €20 and the bill is, let's say, €80. So you'll pay €60 out of pocket and the health insurance company will cover the €20. So that's a co-payment and deductible. It's just extra costs. Whereas with air policies and for the visa and residency applications, there should be no co-payments. So that means you pay for your health insurance policy, and then when you visit a doctor, you go for a scan or for some treatment, you don't pay anything. There's no co-payments, no deductibles. So you'll pay for your health insurance policy, you'll visit your hospital or centre close to you, your specialist that's working within that health insurance network, and then you don't pay anything else. You just show them your health insurance card and they'll look after you. There's no hidden costs, no hidden deductibles and co-payments. And waiting periods is similar, but just a little bit different. A waiting period is health insurance policy might have a waiting period of 6 months for hospitalizations. So in the first 6 months of your policy, if you need to be hospitalized, it won't be covered because there's a waiting period. And then let's say in your 7th month of your policy, you need to go to the hospital, then that will be covered. For example, surgeries might have a waiting period of 9 months. So in your first 9 months of you holding their policy, you won't be able to get any coverage for surgery, but in the 10th, 11th or 12th month, you'll be able to proceed with that surgery. But of course, it's a visa and residency requirement that there should be no waiting periods. So that means from day one, you're fully covered. So if there was surgery needed to take place, a hospitalization, a scan, MRI scan that you needed, that means that you're covered from day one. So it's something to look out for if you're getting quotes, if you do need a private health insurance policy for your visa residency application, to keep an eye on this, make sure there's no co-payments, no deductibles and no waiting periods. So these are, I suppose, 3 very important things to look out for.
Great. And next, the different health centres and doctors use different insurance companies. I remember you telling me this on a previous programme. So how can people make sure they're moving to a place where they can reach the right health centre or hospital easily and make sure that they're covered in the area they're living?
Yeah, so through the health insurance company or the office such as ourselves, we have endless amounts of PDF documents and also online search functions. So in a couple of seconds, you can, for example, throw in your postcode or the town you're living in and search for the type of specialty. So let's say a dermatologist or a general practitioner, and then you'll see all hospitals, GPs or specialists that are available and close to you. And you can also, through the PDFs that we have, you can see the medical network in a certain area. So there's a PDF document, let's say for Madrid or for Barcelona, and you can see which doctors operate in each town, in which area by postcode. And of course, it's really important to ensure that where you're living in Spain, you're going to have some coverage. So if you're in a bigger city, there's most likely going to be a lot of options. But then again, there may be smaller towns that are limited. So you want to make sure you have coverage in that area, because each health insurance company has their own medical network. Of course, a lot of times one private hospital, like HM hospitals, will work with all of the main health insurance companies. But when you're getting a quote or researching a policy or company, just making sure that you have adequate coverage in that area is really important. But the health insurance offers these documents and applications and search functions to ensure that you can see all this and analyze it before making that purchase.
Yes. Good answer. Again, it's location. Really important for lots of different reasons when you move to Spain. For example, if you wanted to live in Compita, where I am, the nearest private health hospitals are, I'd say, 25 minutes, 30 minutes away. There's nothing actually in Compita itself, apart from the health centre, and sometimes you'll have to go as far as Malaga, which is an hour away. So yeah, you've just got to bear that in mind when you're looking at properties. Make sure that you're close to the roads, really, because some people, I mean, and the times I'm talking about are if you live in the middle of Compita. If you live in the Campo and it takes you 15 minutes to get to Compita from there, even higher up in the mountains, then you've got to add that to the time that it's going to take you to get there. And sometimes you've got to go there at one time of day and then leave and then come back later on in the same day, and there might be no buses, so you might have to get a lift from somebody or get a taxi, and they can be quite expensive. So yeah, think about your location, think about your access to main travel routes. There you go. Let's see. So you've got lists for the whole of Spain for all of that kind of thing. To get insurance, do you need an address in Spain? So when you're first applying, before you've got your visa, do you need to know your Spanish residence, your full-time address in Spain before you buy it?
Yeah, no. So for it does depend on different health insurance policies, but for us, you don't need a Spanish address, which I know there's a lot of clients that are moving to Spain and don't have a permanent address yet. They're maybe still shopping around. So in that case, it's great with us. You don't need a Spanish address. You don't need a Spanish number, or you don't need a Spanish NIE or a Spanish bank account. So we try to make it as easy as possible for people buying the insurance if they're coming from a different country and they don't have a Spanish address, phone number, or bank account. So it's important to know.
That my next question was going to be, do you need a Spanish bank account? But you've already answered that. And actually, that's my final question. Does anybody have any more questions before we start to wrap up the show for today? We are coming up to the hour. We're timing this really, really well. And yes, thank you to Paul, by the way, for buying me a coffee, or maybe more than one coffee. Thank you. I saw a little thing flash up on my screen there. That's thank you very much. If anybody else wants to do that, then hover over this and sort out a coffee for me. That would be lovely. I'm slowing down. My speech is slurring. Get me a coffee, somebody. I'm just blabbing away because it takes time for people's messages to come through on here, and I'm hoping that somebody will. What I'll do is ask the question, who's coming on next week in the meantime, and that will be Chris from Up Sticks. He's back with us, and we will announce on the YouTooSpain Facebook community group or the public page to find out what the main topic is that we'll be answering questions about next week, because we haven't quite decided on that one yet, and we still have no questions coming in. So, well, that feels like a good place to wrap things up for the day. And first of all, thank you to all of the people on the live chat and all of the people who've joined us afterwards watching the video. You're important too. You can ask questions in the comments, and I'll pass them on to Ciaran. If I can't answer them, well, I'll pass them on anyway. And yes, thanks all of you for joining us. It wouldn't be the same without you. And let's all give a huge virtual kiss and a hug to our wonderful guest, Ciaran from Innoinsure.
Yep.
And we'll see you again in the near future. Hopefully we won't wait 9 months or more like we did last time, but we shall see, and you'll be very welcome. So that's a bye from me, a bye from everyone. And in the meantime, someone pass around the pre-existing cookies, and peas and fluff, my friends, and I'll leave you all with a message from all of the voices in my head at YouTooSpain. See you soon. Bye for now. Wave goodbye, lads. Bye.
Goodbye. Toodaloo.
Peace and love.
Peas and fluff. Oi, oi. Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
One more cosmic dance?
All right then. Look, Mum, I'm dancing.
Oh, I'm all a quiver.
Let's dance.